My name is Claire, and I've always been the one who took care of everyone in my family. Ever since I was a kid, I knew I had a big heart, and I always believed that family should come first, no matter what. I loved helping my parents, my siblings, and anyone who needed it. But little did I know, my kindness would eventually be the reason I would be pushed to the edge. It all started years ago when my brother, Adam, went through some tough times. His marriage was on the rocks, and he struggled financially after losing his job. I saw how much stress it was putting on him and his family, and as his older sister, I couldn't just stand by and watch. I had a steady job, and I had always been lucky enough to have more than I needed, so I decided to step in. I started sending him money every month, helping him pay bills, covering rent, and even paying for his kids' school tuition. I didn't mind at all. It felt good to know I was helping them get back on their feet. I did this for years without hesitation, always supporting them because I believed in family. After all, we were blood, and that meant something to me. But as the years went by, things started to change. Adam never asked for much help anymore, but he never seemed to appreciate the sacrifices I had made. I noticed that his attitude toward me started to shift. He stopped showing the same gratitude he once did, and I began to feel like I was invisible. Then came the holidays. It was Christmas time, and for the first time in years, I felt that maybe this was my moment to finally relax and enjoy some time for myself. I thought we would gather at my parents' house, have a great meal, and celebrate like we always did. But when I got the invitation, it wasn't what I expected at all. It was a simple message from Adam. "Don't come to Christmas this year. We have enough people as it is." At first, I thought it was a mistake. Surely this was just a misunderstanding. But when I called him to ask what was going on, his response shook me to my core. "Claire, we just don't need you here. You've been so obsessed with saving everyone else, you've forgotten what's important, and frankly, we don't want someone who's just a financial lifeline showing up anymore." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had spent years helping him and his family, and now he was calling me a loser, banning me from Christmas, after everything I had done for him? It felt like a punch to the gut. My own brother, the one I had always been there for, was now rejecting me in the most hurtful way imaginable. It wasn't just the words that stung, it was the coldness in his voice, the complete disregard for everything I had sacrificed. I tried to convince him that I was just trying to help, but he wasn't listening. It was clear to me now. I was nothing more than a financial resource to him. Once I was no longer useful, he had no need for me. And that hurt more than anything else. I hung up the phone, my mind spinning. How could someone I had loved and helped for so long turn their back on me so easily? How could my own flesh and blood treat me like this? That night, as I sat alone, I couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. I had given my time, my money, and my energy to help my brother's family, and now I was being discarded like I was nothing. The pain was overwhelming, but a new feeling began to settle in: anger. I wasn't going to let this slide. I had to find a way to stand up for myself. I spent the entire night in a haze of disbelief, replaying the conversation over and over in my mind. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I wasn't just upset about being left out of Christmas. I was hurt by how little my brother cared for me. How could he forget everything I had done for him and his family? I realized that this wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about respect. It was about the years I had spent pouring my energy into making sure they were okay, only to be treated like I was a burden when I needed recognition. I had always believed that family should have your back, no matter what, but in that moment, I knew that belief had been shattered. But I was done being the one to always give and never get anything in return. I had spent far too long trying to please everyone else while ignoring my own needs. It was time for me to stand up for myself, to stop being the financial savior and start taking care of me. I took a few deep breaths and grabbed my phone. It was time to take control. I called up my best friend, Sarah, who had seen me through thick and thin. She was the one person who knew the whole story about my brother, and I needed her perspective now more than ever. "Hey, Sarah," I said as soon as she picked up. "I need some advice. I don't know what to do. I'm so angry right now. and I feel like I've been taken advantage of for years, but I'm so hurt by what Adam said, and I don't even know how to handle it." Sarah listened patiently before responding. "Claire, what your brother did was wrong, and I understand why you're upset. But here's the thing. You've been there for him too much. It's time for you to let go and focus on yourself for once." Her words hit me hard, but they also made sense. I had been so invested in making sure everyone else was okay. I had lost sight of my own happiness. I had always sacrificed my own peace of mind to keep the peace with my family, and it had drained me. Enough was enough. "I've been doing this for so long," I said, trying to make sense of my thoughts. "Helping them, sacrificing my own needs, and for what? For them to just throw me away when I can't offer them anything?" Sarah paused for a moment, then spoke with confidence. "Exactly. It's time for you to stop being the person who everyone turns to only when they need something. You have every right to be upset and to take a step back. Focus on yourself now." Her words were exactly what I needed to hear. I had spent so much time worrying about my brother and his family that I had forgotten what it was like to focus on my own happiness. I didn't need their approval, and I certainly didn't need their validation. I was worthy of more than just being a source of financial support. "I'm going to do it," I said, feeling a fire reignite within me. "I'm going to stand up for myself. I've given them too much, and it's time for me to take control of my life again. I'm not going to be anyone's safety net anymore." Sarah cheered me on. "That's the spirit. Don't let anyone treat you like this. You deserve to be treated with respect. It's time for your family to realize that." The next day, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let my brother's callous words define me. I wasn't going to be the loser he tried to make me feel like. Instead, I was going to use this moment as a catalyst for change. I was going to take back my power. I called up my lawyer and began the process of ensuring that my financial boundaries with my family were clear. No more loans, no more handouts, no more letting anyone take advantage of me. I had worked hard for everything I had, and I wasn't going to allow anyone to take that away from me anymore. It was time for me to stop being the one who always came to the rescue. I was going to start living for myself, and I wasn't going to apologize for it. The days following that conversation were a mixture of relief and apprehension. On the one hand, I felt empowered. For the first time in years, I wasn't just catering to my family's needs, I was focusing on what I needed. But on the other hand, the guilt started to creep in. Was I being too harsh? Was it really right to cut my family off like this, especially my brother? But then I remembered the countless times I had sacrificed my own happiness for the sake of their comfort. The loans, the favors, the constant worry over their problems that I had carried on my shoulders for so long. They hadn't appreciated me then, and there was no guarantee they would appreciate me now. It was clear I had to stop enabling them. It was time to take action, not just for my peace of mind, but for my future. I needed to set boundaries that would allow me to rebuild myself. It wasn't about being selfish. It was about self-preservation. I decided to stop waiting around for an apology from my brother. I wasn't going to wait for him to suddenly realize how wrong he had been. Instead, I focused on making sure my own financial and emotional boundaries were clear. The first step was to officially separate myself from any financial ties with my family. No more handouts, no more covering their expenses. I called up my bank, my credit card companies, and made sure I was the only one with access to my accounts. I also ensured my assets were secure, making sure my savings were protected. The next step was to put distance between myself and my family, emotionally. It wasn't about cutting them out completely, but it was about not being the one to always clean up their messes. I didn't have to show up for every family gathering, every emergency, or every request for money. I had been the emotional crutch for everyone around me for so long, and it was time to step back. I knew it wouldn't be easy. There would be pushback. I could already imagine the conversations that would happen behind closed doors, the "how could she do this?" and the "she's being selfish" remarks. But I didn't care. I had to prioritize myself. A few days later, my brother called. I could see his name flash on my phone, but this time I didn't feel the compulsion to pick up. I was in control now. He left a voicemail, which I listened to in silence. "Claire, I know you're upset, but this has gone too far. You're being unreasonable. I was just trying to help you see the bigger picture. We're family, and we need each other." I shook my head as I listened. The bigger picture? He was still trying to make it sound like I was the one in the wrong. I didn't even bother to respond. The next time we saw each other, I would make it clear that things had changed. I wasn't going to let him guilt-trip me anymore. I wasn't his backup plan. I wasn't anyone's backup plan. The week after that, I received a text from my mother. "Claire, we're having a family dinner. You should come. We've missed you." I knew this was her way of trying to fix things, but again, the guilt didn't hit me. I wasn't going to go back to my old role, the one where I played the peacemaker, the one who always showed up to smooth things over. I didn't reply to the message. I didn't need to explain myself. I needed to focus on myself now. Days turned into weeks, and as the months passed, something incredible happened. I started to feel like myself again. The heaviness I had carried for so long began to lift. I was free from the constant pressure to keep everyone else happy. I was doing things for me, whether it was picking up a new hobby, traveling, or simply enjoying my peace and quiet at home. I began to reconnect with friends I had lost touch with. I went to therapy to help unpack the emotional weight I had been carrying, and I started focusing on building my career in a way that I never had before. I was building my future. I realized that I didn't need my family's approval or validation anymore. My worth wasn't tied to how much I could give them or how much I could do to make them happy. I was worthy because I was me, and I didn't need anyone else's permission to be who I was. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was one I had to take. I had taken control of my life, and I would never let anyone take that from me again. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions. As I continued to focus on myself, something inside me clicked. I had been running on autopilot for years, trying to meet everyone's expectations, especially my family's. But now, I was making decisions for me. It wasn't easy, but I had finally realized that I didn't owe anyone an explanation for taking care of myself first. Then came a turning point. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, and I was sitting at a cafe, sipping my coffee and reading a book I had been meaning to finish. As I flipped through the pages, I received a message from my mom. She had finally reached out after weeks of silence. "Claire, I think it's time we talk. I've been thinking a lot about what happened. We need to fix this." I didn't know how to feel when I saw that message. Part of me wanted to scream, "It's too late," while the other part of me wondered if I was ready to have that conversation. I thought long and hard about it, weighing my options. Was I ready to listen to them again? To reopen the door to the family that had hurt me so deeply? Or was this just another attempt to make me the scapegoat again, to guilt-trip me into fixing everything? I picked up my phone and started typing. "Mom, I think we need to talk too, but this time it needs to be different. I'm not the same person I was when you last saw me. I'm done being the one who always makes things right. I'm done being the emotional crutch for everyone else. If we're going to have a conversation, it has to be based on mutual respect." I sent the message and put my phone down, taking a deep breath. I wasn't sure what would come of it, but I knew I couldn't go back to the way things were. I had changed. I had learned that my worth wasn't defined by how much I could give, and I wasn't going to apologize for standing up for myself. Later that evening, I received a response from my mom. "You're right, Claire. We've been blind to how much we've taken from you. I'm sorry. Let's meet tomorrow and talk." The next day, I arrived at the cafe where my mom and I used to meet for coffee when I was younger. It felt surreal to be here, knowing how much had changed. When I saw her sitting at a corner table, waiting, my heart skipped a beat. I took a deep breath and walked over. My mom looked up at me with a mixture of guilt and hope in her eyes. "Claire," she said softly, "I'm sorry for everything. I took advantage of your kindness for so long. I should have seen how much you were sacrificing for us, and I didn't. I didn't realize what I was doing to you." I sat down across from her, still unsure of what to say. This wasn't easy. But I wasn't the same person who used to just forgive and forget. "Mom," I said, my voice steady, "it's not just about the money or the favors. It's about the way you made me feel like I wasn't enough unless I was giving. You taught me that my value came from what I could provide, and that's not how it should be." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I was wrong, Claire. I see that now, and I'm so sorry. You deserve better." It was a strange moment, sitting there with my mother, hearing her apologize. I had spent so many years waiting for this, hoping she would realize how much I had done for her and how it had affected me. And now, here she was, acknowledging the pain she had caused. But even as she apologized, I knew that this was just the beginning. Forgiveness doesn't happen overnight, and I couldn't just forget the years of manipulation. But I also knew that I couldn't keep carrying around the anger. I had to find a way to let go, not for their sake, but for mine. "I appreciate your apology, Mom," I said. "But I need time, I need space to process everything, and I can't go back to how things were before. I'm changing, and I need you to understand that." She nodded. "I understand, Claire, and I'll give you all the space you need. I just hope that one day we can rebuild what we lost." I didn't have all the answers, and I didn't know if our relationship would ever be the same again. But I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer the person who would let my family walk all over me. I had found my voice, and I was going to protect my peace, no matter what. The road ahead would be a journey of healing, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was walking it on my terms. I was ready for what came next. As the weeks passed, I started to feel a sense of calm that I hadn't experienced in a long time. The weight I had been carrying for years, constantly trying to fix everything for everyone, always being the one to sacrifice, had begun to lift. I was living life on my terms now, and it felt incredibly freeing. I started focusing on things I had put on the back burner for years. I picked up hobbies I had forgotten about, like painting and hiking. I reconnected with old friends, people who had always supported me, but I had distanced myself from because I was so wrapped up in my family's needs. For the first time, I felt like I was living for myself, not for them, not for anyone else. But even though I was doing better, there were still moments when the weight of my family's actions crept back into my thoughts. I found myself wondering if I had made the right decision, or if I had gone too far by cutting them off so completely. Was I being too harsh? After all, they were family. Couldn't I have just let the past go? Then, one evening, as I was sitting in my apartment, reflecting on how far I had come, my phone rang. It was my brother, David. I hadn't spoken to him in months. He had been one of the main people who took advantage of me, constantly asking for money without any gratitude. I had assumed he'd be just like the rest of the family, trying to guilt-trip me into coming back. But when I picked up the phone, his voice was different. "Claire," he said, sounding worn out, "I've been thinking a lot about everything, about how I treated you. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I don't expect anything from you, but I just want you to know that I regret how I acted." His words took me by surprise. I had expected to hear more anger or defensiveness from him, but instead, there was sincerity. It was the apology I had been waiting for, though I wasn't sure if I was ready to fully forgive him. "David, I appreciate you saying that," I said, my voice steady. "But it's going to take time. I've been through a lot, and I'm still processing everything. I'm not sure where we go from here, but I'm glad you see things differently now." He was silent for a moment before speaking again. "I understand. I don't want to rush anything. I just wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry for how I treated you." We talked for a little while longer, and by the end of the conversation, I felt a strange sense of relief. I wasn't ready to jump back into a relationship with him, but he had taken the first step in acknowledging the damage that had been done. That was more than I had ever expected. As I hung up the phone, I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me was still hurt, but another part of me was starting to feel that maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for healing. The road ahead was long, but I wasn't alone anymore. I had the strength to rebuild my life on my own, and if my family was willing to put in the effort, perhaps we could eventually find a way forward together. I had learned that forgiveness doesn't always mean going back to what was before. Sometimes it means accepting the past for what it is, learning from it, and then choosing a new path for yourself. The weeks that followed were filled with new opportunities. I started looking into starting my own business, something I had always dreamed of doing but never had the time for. The financial security I had now, combined with my newfound confidence, gave me the courage to take the plunge. My family's betrayal, while painful, had also lit a fire inside of me. It was time for me to focus on my own dreams and goals. I was no longer going to be the person who always put everyone else first. I was going to chase my dreams, and I wasn't going to apologize for it. By the time the next holiday season rolled around, I had made significant strides in my life. I was starting my business, surrounded by supportive friends, and I was finally in a place where I could say with confidence that I was happy. I had my peace back. And as for my family, I still wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure. I would never let anyone, not even family, take away my sense of self-worth again. The holidays came around once again, and I found myself at a crossroads. My family had reached out several times, asking me to join them for dinner or to come over for the holidays. There was a part of me that wanted to return to the old traditions, to feel like I belonged again. But I knew that wasn't what I needed. I had spent too many years trying to please everyone else at the expense of my own happiness. I couldn't go back to that life. Instead, I spent the holiday season doing things that really mattered to me. I spent Christmas volunteering at a local shelter, helping those who had no family to go home to. It was a humbling experience, and it reminded me that family isn't always about blood, it's about the people you choose to surround yourself with. I felt more fulfilled helping others than I had ever felt at any family gathering. Meanwhile, my business was growing. What had started as a small idea was becoming something real. I was making my own success, carving my own path, and for the first time in years, I felt proud of what I had accomplished. I didn't need my family's approval anymore. I had built my own self-worth, piece by piece. Then one evening, I received a text from my brother. It was simple, just a few words. "I miss you. Can we talk?" I took a deep breath. It was the first time in months that he had reached out, and my first instinct was to ignore it. But I had changed. I wasn't the same person who would brush it off or walk away. I had grown stronger, and I wanted to face this with a clear mind, not out of anger, but out of the desire for closure. We met at a small cafe a few days later. When I saw him walk through the door, my heart raced. He looked different, humbled, more vulnerable than I had ever seen him. He had changed too. "Claire," he began, sitting down across from me. "I know I can never undo what I did, but I need you to know I regret it every day. I took you for granted. You were always there for me, and I didn't appreciate it. I don't expect forgiveness right away, but I hope we can work towards rebuilding our relationship." I listened to him, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. This wasn't about rushing into forgiveness. It was about acknowledging the pain and understanding that healing takes time. It was about me knowing my worth and deciding what I wanted moving forward. "I appreciate your honesty, David," I said, my voice steady, "and I'm willing to take small steps toward rebuilding our relationship, but it's going to take time. I've had to learn how to take care of myself first, and that's something I can't compromise anymore." He nodded, understanding the gravity of what I was saying. The relationship wouldn't be the same. It couldn't be. But there was room for growth, for healing, and for creating something new. As we parted ways that evening, I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel the need to prove anything or to hold on to the past. I had taken control of my life, and the future was mine to shape. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. There would be moments of doubt and struggle, but I was finally free from the weight of other people's expectations. I had learned that my worth came from within, and no one else could define it for me. I didn't need to be the one to always fix things. I didn't need to be the one to give everything and get nothing in return. I was worthy of love, respect, and happiness, just as much as anyone else. And most importantly, I had learned to value myself. I was ready for the next chapter, ready to chase my dreams without fear of failure, ready to take on whatever came my way. I had become the person I was always meant to be, and I wasn't going to apologize for it.